Failing Leadership Academies, Trauma-Informed Turnaround Schools and Practices. Failing Leadership Academies networks has a variety of schools, which include charter schools. Charter schools that are independently managed, publicly funded schools operating under charter, or contracted between the school and the state of jurisdiction, allowing for significant autonomy and flexibility. A charter partner. Failing Leadership Academy has charter partners, and they are collaborative partnerships between the school district and an organization like PLA. We also have innovation schools. Innovation schools include in-district schools that operate with greater autonomy and flexibility with regard to curriculum, staffing, budget, schedules/calendars, professional development, and district policies. Basically, these are public schools that will be able to implement innovative strategies developed by the governing board, staff, and school administration to improve student achievement while keeping funding within districts. So, what is a turnaround school or turnaround practices? Turnaround Work 101. We'll take a look at a school who they operate in practicing with turnaround work because of the demographics of their schools. So nationwide, schools have embarked on ambitious efforts to turn around over 5,000 lowest performing schools. Turnaround refers to intensive short-term interventions undertaken by a state or district with a goal of dramatically improving the way a school operates. So principals who successfully turn around failing schools are not lone rangers. They develop and rely on school leadership teams and work in partnership with the district and the community. Let's take a look at this school and just a little clip of what it requires for you to be successful in turnaround work. And thank you for being a part of our PLA family and joining in this effort.
In the 2006-2007 school year, we were listed as one of the 30 worst performing schools in the state of North Carolina.
The things that I saw when I got here were children just running up and down the halls, hollering, screaming, just a level of almost mayhem.
A fair amount of them come without any resources at all. Some days our children go home and they may not have a home to go to. Some days our children go home and there may not be food.
There was a lot of teacher turnover back then, and I think we were in a mentality where it was just about teachers surviving.
There used to be bullies, like the bullies make you scared, you didn't even want to look at them because they were like, you have a problem.
Back at that time, it kind of felt like the students were running the school in a sense.
I quit my first year here because it was just so difficult for me.
We had a principal that came in maybe in September, October of the school year. She spent the first couple of months just identifying everything that we needed to change about the school. Number one thing is we had to look at our staff. If you weren't here for the kids, this wasn't the place for you.
The new principal who came in at the time, she called me and she said, "Ms. Johnson, we really need you. We know that you're a phenomenal teacher. Could you please just come back?" And my only request from her was that if I come back, something has to be different.
Then once we got all of the right people, that's when we began to look at what we were doing in the classroom and why our kids weren't getting it. And we found the root of that to be the way that we were teaching our students. Once we go over each of these big pieces of the lesson planning process, you need to go back to your plans and adjust. Implement whatever we've learned in the session, correct it, revise it, do whatever that may be.
Wow. And so again, when joining PLA as a network and in the turnaround work that we do, we absolutely understand that our scholars come sometimes with limited resources, sometimes with needing to be affirmed and encouraged in their self-esteem and their self-image. But most importantly, we have to be highly reflective professionals to understand that if our scholars are are not getting the academic instruction, then we have a responsibility to respond. And we respond by putting the mirror in front of our face and asking ourselves what we can do better. So turnaround work is understanding how to change the culture to swiftly raise student achievement by investing in research-based teaching strategies, enhancing teacher excellence, and fostering strong relationships. So signing up with our network means you are committed to strong relationships, you are committed to enhancing your excellence as a professional, and to ensure that we are using research-based teaching strategies. The strategies, the research works. So you will be asked to use the different resources we have. Also, it also means understanding that with coming from backgrounds where there's hardships, there's stress, many of our scholars are experiencing ACE, which is adverse childhood experiences, which it's stressful events during childhood that include either physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, physical neglect or emotional neglect, and then sometimes there's that household adversity, substance abuse, exposure to these things, maybe divorce or separation, mental illness, domestic violence, or the impact of an incarcerated family member. And so when scholars experience things like this and these stressful events during childhood, it really causes high levels of stress. So when teachers raise their voice, that could be it could take them back to a traumatic experience. So we believe in using calm voices, setting up safe environments where scholars can thrive and learn in a positive way. Now, that is just realm one of trauma, of adverse childhood experiences, right? But there is a second realm, there's a community realm, and there's an environmental realm. And so the community realm is, many of our scholars are also low income. And so for those of them that are living at the federal poverty level, they experience other things that you can see down here. These are some root causes that may show up in the household. So some of the root causes may be poverty, right? Poverty can cause stress, and people can cope with their stress sometimes maybe by indulging in alcohol, right, as just one variable. And so a lot of these things are impacting our scholars, and you joining our network, we really need you to be empathetic, to be knowledgeable, to constantly be open to growing and learning and knowing what is impacting our scholars, what's happening in the community impacts our scholars and their families. And then environmental things. So we had a pandemic. We had COVID-19. A lot of our scholars were impacted by that. But whenever there's a hurricane, a tornado, a flood, or any kind of environmental natural disaster or a climate crisis, our scholars are impacted by that as well. High levels of stress really impact the brain. And we want to just show you a 2-minute clip about how it impacts the brain. So when you're asked to teach, to use research-based curriculum, to really be culturally responsive and trauma-informed, because the trauma of poverty, the trauma of experiencing household trauma and different things like that, it does impact the brain. And so on a sheet of paper, pause the video right now, write brain on one side. How do you heal that? What are the 5 healing gestures that can help the brain be prepared to learn? Pause the video. All right, when you are ready and you have your note-taking guide out, we want you to respond to the question, how does ACE impact the brain? What are the 5 healing gestures?
The emotional effects of childhood trauma are well known, but new scientific research reveals that a child's positive and negative experiences can shape and reshape the brain. Research suggests that the more a child witnesses violence, the more neural connections are created in regions of the brain that involve fear, anxiety, and impulsiveness, while fewer are created in regions that involve reasoning, planning, and behavioral control. The good news is the young brain is malleable or plastic, and fostering stable, supportive relationships can prevent or help reverse this damage, resulting in lifelong benefits for the child's learning, behavior, and overall health. So how can you help a child in your life? Just remember these 5 healing gestures. Celebrate them with a compliment or by applauding their efforts. Comfort them by staying calm and patient. Listen to them and show an interest in their passions. Collaborate with them by asking their opinions, and inspire them with new ideas. With these everyday gestures, you can help a child look forward to a bright future.
Wow, and that was a quick way to give us the 5 healing gestures, but also to let us know how that stress, that high levels of stress and childhood trauma, how it impacts the brain, but what can be done to heal the brain. And so with that, in your notes, hopefully you were able to capture that short, very 2-minute video, but it tells us both positive and negative experiences can shape and reshape the brain. The negative experiences such as fear, anxiety, and impulsiveness, right? But then, those experiences can really be reshaped into a better outcome through reasoning, planning, and behavioral control, and helping a scholar to build those skills. And the 5 healing gestures that support that work is 1, to celebrate, to compliment and appreciate the scholar's efforts, to listen to them, show interest in their passions. 3, to comfort them by being calm and patient. 4, collaborate, asking their opinion. And then 5, inspire them. Use restorative practice, not punitive, not you're bad, you did this, and now you get punished. Because that is not a growth model, and that reminds the scholar that, you know what, there's something wrong with me instead of something happening to me. And so that is what we subscribe to at PLA. We are in alignment with the research, and we expect all of our educators to have a growth mindset, meaning you're going to view challenges as opportunities. You acknowledge and embrace your weaknesses, learn to give and receive constructive criticism that builds up, not tears down. Intelligence and talent is dynamic and ever improving. Prioritize learning over seeking approval. Focus, so not telling our scholars, we'll do this will make me happy. Well, we don't want to create people pleasers. We want them to prioritize their learning over seeking our approval. We want them to learn. Focus on the process instead of the end result. Be inspired by the success of others. To think of learning as brain training. Understanding failure as an opportunity to grow and persist in the face of setbacks. So this is our work here at PLA, and we thank you in advance for partnering with us in that work. And we know that you're going to help turn our schools around and to make sure that we are leveling up and doing some amazing things for our scholars, their families, and the community. Thank you.